Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear all students. This is a slightly overview of the kidneys which we discussed in our previous lectures, our previous slides. In this overview, we will discuss about the location and description of the kidneys, what are the covering, the layers which have covered the kidneys, about the structure of the kidneys and the blood supply. This is important for understanding the kidneys and their functions. So, the first thing is the location and the description of the kidneys. The kidneys color is reddish brown. They are dark red in color, and these kidneys, they lies behind the peritoneum, high up to the posterior abdominal wall, the back side wall of the abdomen, and they are present on the either the both sides of the vertebral column, the right and the left. The right kidney, it is slightly lower than the left kidney because the area and the space is covered by the right lobe of the liver. So, due to that reason, the right kidney is slightly lower than the left one. And with the contraction of the diaphragm during respiration, both kidneys they move downward in vertical direction up to about 1 inch, or we can say that around about 2.5 centimeter. So, during respiration, the diaphragm moves downward. So, along with the diaphragm, both the kidneys, they move downward up to 1 inch. And on the medial concave border of each kidney, there is a vertical slit, and that is bounded by a thick lips of renal substance, and that is called a hilum. The concave border that is present at the vertical side, and that area is called the hilum, and this hilum extends into a large cavity, and that cavity is called the renal sinus. And this hilum, it transmits, if we discuss from the front and go to the back side of the body. So, from the front anteriorly, first we will see the renal vein that comes out of the hilum, and then the branches of the renal artery. After these, first initially 2 branches, then ureter, and the third branch is right behind the ureter, and then the lymph and the nerve fibers. So, this is the veins and the arteries and the structures that comes out from the kidneys, and this is the order from the front to the back. Here is the structure of the kidneys, the posterior abdominal wall, which shows the kidneys along with the other structures. So, this is right kidney, this is left one. We can see this right kidney, it is slightly lower than the left one, and this is the suprarenal gland, the adrenal glands which is present on the kidneys. This is the renal pelvis, and this ureter extends from the hilum of the kidneys. Here is this is the ureter. The coverings of the kidneys, the first one is the fibrous capsule. This capsule surrounds the kidney and is closely applied to its outer surface. It is closely attached to the outer surface of the kidneys, and then after that there is a perirenal fat. This fat covers the fibrous capsule. First is the fibrous capsule, and then outside this fibrous capsule there is a fat. That fat is called the perirenal fat, and renal fascia is another layer which is a condensation of the connective tissue, and these renal fascia, they lies outside the perirenal fat and encloses the kidney and the suprarenal glands. So renal fascia, it covers the kidneys, the perirenal fat, the fibrous capsule along with the adrenal glands or the suprarenal glands. After that, there is a pararenal fat which lies external to this renal fascia and large in quantity, and this pararenal fat, this forms the part of the retroperitoneal fat. The back side of the peritoneum, this is also a pararenal fat. So the perirenal fat, this one, the renal fascia and pararenal fat, all these kinds of fats, they support the kidneys and hold them in a position, give them support on the posterior abdominal wall. This is the structure of the layers. The first one is the fibrous capsule. This is the capsule, and after this capsule there is a perirenal fat, and this perirenal fat is then covered by this greenish layer. This greenish layer is the renal fascia, and outside this renal fascia there is a pararenal fat. So these three things, the perirenal fat, the renal fascia and the pararenal fats, so these fats, they supports and holds the kidney in the position which is the posterior abdominal wall. The structure of the kidneys. Each kidney has a dark brown outer cortex and a light brown inner medulla. So if we divide the kidney into two colors, the dark color and the light color. So the dark color is the brownish, that is the outer portion, and the light color, that is the inner. The outer one is the cortex, the inner one is medulla. As we have seen is the structure. This is the cortex and this is the darker one, and this is the medulla. So medulla is composed of a dozen of renal pyramids, each having its base oriented towards the cortex and its apex, the renal papilla, projecting medially. So if we look at the structure, so these are the renal pyramids. These are the renal pyramids. This is their apex and this is the base. So the base, it is connected with the renal cortex, and the apex, it is connected with the renal papilla. So the cortex extends into medulla between adjacent pyramids as the renal columns. These are the renal columns, and extending from the base of the renal pyramids into the cortex are striations known as medullary rays. The renal sinuses is the space between the hilum, which contains the upper extended end of the ureter, and the renal pelvis. This is the renal sinus, and here is the extended base of the ureter. This divides into 2 or 3 major calyces, each of which divides into 2 or 3 minor calyces. So if we look at these, so this is 2 major calyces, and then it further divides into minor calyces. This one is minor calyces, and this and this one is the major calyces. 1 major calyx and 2 major second one major calyx. So each minor calyx is indented by the apex of the renal pyramid, which is called the renal papilla. So this is the renal pyramid or the renal papilla, which is connected with these minor calyces. This is the structure of the kidney. Here, this is the hilum. From this hilum, this ureter, these veins and the related structures, they are supplied by blood through these vessels. The blood supply of the kidneys. The renal artery arises from the aorta at the level of the second lumbar vertebra and divides into 5 segmented arteries that enter the hilum of the kidneys. They are distributed to different segments and the different areas of the kidneys. Lobar arteries, these arteries arise from each segment and then they give to each renal pyramid. Before entering the renal substance, each lobar artery gives off 2 or 3 interlobar arteries, and these interlobar arteries, these run toward the cortex on each side of the renal pyramid. At the junction of the cortex and the medulla, the interlobar arteries gives off another branches, the arcuate arteries, which arc over the base of the pyramid, and arcuate arteries, they further divides into interlobar arteries that rise in the cortex. The afferent glomerular arteries arise as the branches of the interlobar arteries. The renal vein emerges from the hilum in front of the renal artery and drains into the inferior vena cava. So this is the blood supply of the kidneys. These are the interlobar artery and these are the arcuate arteries and veins which make here arcs. These are the vasa recta. So they are arranged in this manner. So that was all about the kidneys, their location, their description, and the overview of the renal anatomy related to the functions of the kidneys. These are the references from where the data is taken. Thank you for watching. If you have any question, you can ask. Assalamu alaikum. Allah Hafiz.